So I have both of the two new Mobula 6s from Happy Model here. This is the analog version. It is smaller, it is lighter, it is faster, it is less expensive. And this is the Eco HDZero version. This one is a little bit more expensive, but it has the digital HDZero video system. Much different, right? So these two things share a ton in common, but they're actually pretty different. Now, I like both of these drones, but I think the analog version here fits a very specific person, as does this HDZero version. So we're going to figure out which one of these is the better drone for you. Both of these drones have a whole lot in common, and that's kind of where I would like to start, right? First of all, the frame is basically the same. One of these is white, the other is gray. They do a nice job of protecting these propellers. I've crashed these things a ton. I've got a bunch of batteries on both of these things. We'll talk about batteries also because that's different. But the frames are basically identical, just different colors. They're fairly flexible, and I haven't actually broken any of these struts yet, so that's positive. The motors on both of these are 0702 28,000 kV motors, and they're both pushing 31 millimeter props. This is a props out configuration, and this is a 1 millimeter shaft. On the spec sheet, it says the analog version is 3/100ths lighter. I don't know that that is actually the case. I'm pretty sure they're the same motors. They both run all-in-one boards. They're kind of this diamond shape. They're not identical boards. They're both ELRS serial-based receivers that are kind of built in. This one has a built-in VTX up to 400 milliwatts. This one has its own VTX, which makes it a little bit heavier, and that is, of course, the HDZero ecosystem. Both of these drones have this new A30 connector, and that is different. This is a better connector. It is compatible with the Beta FPV BT 2.0 connector. This one does have a little notch in there. Now, I did fly this drone on both these GNB A30 batteries, as well as some Beta FPV BT 2.0s, just to kind of compare, and I'll get to that a little bit later. But just so you know, this is a better connector than a PH 2.0. You get less sag. It just delivers a more consistent power to these motors. So what makes these things different? Let's talk first about this one and what is different about the analog version first. It's a little bit cheaper. It's about $120. And of course, obviously, you have an analog camera, so the video signal on that isn't going to be as clear or as crisp. I do recommend you bump it up to 400 milliwatts. That's just going to allow you the best, most powerful signal, so you can fly a little bit further. You're not getting super far away, maybe 100 meters or so. That really kind of depends on where you're flying and what kind of obstacles you have in the way. This thing is great for flying both indoors and for flying outdoors. If you want to do acro with a 65 millimeter whoop, this thing is the best there is. Really, there isn't anything better. So for the acro enthusiast, the person that likes to do some freestyle ripping, this analog version is the one you want. This analog version is the one you want, especially if performance is the thing that matters most. Because this thing is lighter, it's just a touch under 18 grams, it's just going to perform a little bit better. With that in mind, also, if you are a tiny whoop racer and you don't want to build your own, yeah, again, this is the best tiny whoop racer that you can get right out of the box. You don't have to deal with building it. It comes pre-built. It is super light. Yes, this thing is awesome. Plus, because it is lighter, you're going to get more flight time out of your battery. I did some testing with both the GMB 380s and the 300s with this A30 connector, and I can get about, I don't know, maybe 210, 215 on this 380, and right around 2 minutes with this 300, right? So you're going to get more flight time. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but you're going to get more flight time out of this analog version of the Mobula 6. So then what about this guy? This is the HDZero Eco version. Now, it is a little bit more expensive. It's coming in right around $160. Now, that is vastly cheaper than the last Mobula 6 with HDZero, which was this guy here, coming in about $200. So it's nice that the price on this is coming down. But again, all of the equipment for HDZero, the goggles, or you can get a screen that is less expensive, but pretty much all of the components that you need to fly HDZero are a little bit more expensive than their analog counterparts. So you have to keep that in mind. Now, if I If I was starting from zero, I would go with HDZero because the picture is really so much better. I'm spoiled now. It's hard for me to fly analog because I prefer this digital signal. It just looks better, it's cleaner, it's crisper, and the breakup is easier to fly through. I really prefer that. So if video quality is something you want, yeah, you gotta go with this. Also, because it's a little bit heavier, it's a little bit more docile, right? So it's not quite as twitchy. I find it's easier to control a drone like this versus something like this that is so performance based. You really got to be dialed in to fly this. Now, you can tune it down for sure, but you don't have to worry about that with this HDZero version as much. Now, because it's heavier, these batteries aren't going to last as long. I was getting just at about 2 minutes for this bigger 380 and about 1:45 with these 300. So it's going to cut down on your flight time. Other little differences, the motors here are plugged on the HDZero version. That's just a little bit easier to swap out. Not that that's super common that you have to swap out your motors, but if you had to, you could do that, whereas they are soldered on this analog version. That's just to save a little bit of extra weight, right? They really dialed in the weight savings on this guy. Another thing they're going to want to do, whichever one you get, the video antenna is UFL, right? They're connected here. And inside on this one's up a little bit further. It's kind of hard to see there. But either way, I was flying this one, the analog version, and in a crash, my antenna came off, right? And that's really bad, right? If I noticed it right away, I landed it, I turned it off, and then I connected it back. But what really you should do is put a little dab of welder glue or super glue or something to keep that antenna from popping off. Because if it pops off and you're continuing to fly, or you're crash and it's continued to be powered on, it could burn out your VTX, get super hot, and that's just really bad. So definitely a piece of advice: go out, add a dab of glue so that doesn't happen to you. Out of the box, the rates on the analog one here are so much snappier and faster, but that's something you can change, and I probably will for my HDZero because I think this is the one I'm going to spend more time flying. Now, I flew both of these with my ELRS Boxer radio. You're going to need an ELRS compatible radio, and I think the Boxer is pretty much the best one there is, but again, that's a personal preference.
Okay, so quick recap. You want the HDZero 2024 analog version if you just fly analog, or if you want the most performance in a 65mm whoop, this is it. You want to fly acro, you want to race, you want the 2024 acro version. Plus, it's less expensive. Now, the Mobula 2024 ECO version is for the person that wants the best video signal, right? The video quality coming out of this is absolutely better. The picture is much clearer. Now, it's not as fast. It is a little bit more expensive, but also I think it's good for a beginner because it's just a tiny bit more docile because it is a little bit heavier.
Either way, it's hard to go wrong with either one of these tiny little drones. So fun to fly. Can fly them inside, can fly them outside. These little drones just keep getting better. If you're considering buying one of these things, right, we've got links down below. They are affiliate links. What does that mean? Well, it just means it helps support the channel. I get a little kickback if you buy one of these drones or really anything else using one of those links. It doesn't cost you a thing, but it helps support the channel so we can continue to make videos for you. I hope this was helpful. Good luck, everyone. Happy flying.